Hello, 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 hello. Welcome back to the Connected Wellness Podcast. I'm Rachel Ann. I'm here with the lovely Marianne, and we are so passionate about
Here in this
wellness.
podcast, we look at the ways our physical, emotional, and spiritual health is all connected and how we can take better care of our whole selves holistically so we can live our best lives. We're really excited that you're here with us on the journey. Welcome to episode 41 of the
Yes.
podcast.
Yes.
So, we've had
Welcome.
some good conversations lately. The last few episodes, I think, have really
Mm-hmm.
struck a chord about self love and about aging. And I think this episode is going to kind of seamlessly go along the same lines here, talking about contentment, right? Yeah. So
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I think we're doing great. I'm happy that you're with us and along for the ride here. Lots of
Yes.
good stuff to talk about.
Yeah. Yeah. Today will be a great episode. I feel like, especially with just a lot of things that's going on right now, being content is just really
Hmm.
hard. So I'm excited for us to tackle it together.
Absolutely. Yeah. So let's start with some wins. Do you have a wellness win you want to share?
Yes, I do. So I think, as I have shared, I'm doing lots of stuff to revamp my health, my gut health, my other aspects of my physical health, my mental health. Yay, Rachel. And one of the goals that I do have is to lose some weight. And so the first time that I tried to like really revamp my physical health and I was really focusing on my weight, it was in a way that was unhealthy. Like I was weighing myself too much. And I was just so
Hmm.
hyper focused on it. This time around, like I'm working with a nutritionist, I have my physical therapist, I have a really great PCP, and I just noticed that the difference, that a holistic approach, how that makes my health journey just
Yeah.
less stressful. And so through that, I haven't really been weighing myself like that. It's still a goal of mine, but I haven't really been weighing myself. And my nutritionist and I talk about
Hmm.
non-scale victories. So how your body feels in clothes, how does it feel to move around and to do, everyday activities? Are there things that you wish you could be doing, but it's difficult for you to do, right? So ways that you can still kind of assess how you're doing
Hmm.
in that goal aside from the scale. And so I haven't really been weighing myself like that. Haven't really thought about it. And then the other day I was like, I haven't really weighed myself. I actually stubbed my toe on it, on the scale. And I was like, I haven't weighed myself in a while. I'm stubbing my toe on this. Maybe this is a good like reminder to do that. And so I weighed myself and I was like, oh, Rachel, you've lost like quite a
Nice.
bit of weight. And I was, yeah. And like for me, that's a goal. So I'm happy about that. And the way that I am going about it is healthy. So I'm happy about that. And so I'm proud of myself that I have been able to like see the non-scale victories and be really excited and happy. And then I'm also happy of how I'm using the scale, where it's not
Hmm.
the determining factor, but it is one of the factors. And I'm happy with the number that I'm seeing
Yeah.
on the scale, right? It's letting me know that yes, like this is one way of the many ways that you know that what you're doing
Yeah.
is working. So that's my multi-layered
Yeah.
wellness win.
Congratulations. What I love the most about that is that
Thanks.
so often we seek physical health at the expense of our mental health, right? Or emotional health. When we
Mm,
obsess about the scale, especially, or about exactly what we're eating or doing the exact right, workout or whatever. So I love that you're balancing that, right? Like physical health, of course, is important, but
yeah.
not at the expense of
Right.
our emotional wellness. So yeah, good for you.
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks, Marianne. What's your wellness
So
win?
for way too long, I've been dealing with neck pain. Then and I kind of
I
mentioned
remember.
that when you talked about your physical therapy when last time that I bailed on physical therapy so quick because I wasn't seeing results. But it's been like really bad lately, like which where I'm waking up with a
Oh,
headache every day because of the pain. So I was just like, I need to do something. Like maybe I don't need to go back to physical therapy, but
mm,
I need to like make some sort of change. So I had been doing some
Mm,
stretches, but I was not consistent. So I started doing some specific
mm.
stretches every night the last like week before bed, and it's actually made a huge difference. And I was like, I'm kind of mad, like, has it been this simple the whole time? Like, if I had just done this, taken 10 minutes, then I wouldn't be waking up in pain every day. But so far so good. The past like
Mm,
week, so I'm really happy about that. But also, like, sometimes it's really that simple, that you just need some consistent
yeah.
effort, to do something. And I don't need to take medicine.
Mm,
Like, I was taking too much like a leave, and it was like stressing me out. So I was like, I need to do something that I don't need to
mm,
take so much medicine. I'm not trying to go back to the physical
mm.
therapist. I don't have time for that right now. Let me just try if I can do something. And it's been working. So thank God,
Mm,
knock on wood,
mm.
whatever you want to say, that it'll continue to be helpful. But sometimes it's the little things.
Yeah. That's a
Yeah.
whole episode in itself, girl. Sometimes it's the little things, sometimes it's just the simple things. I'm
Thank
so
you.
glad that it's helping you to feel better. How did you get the idea to
Well,
do
I
the
had done
stretching?
these before, and like one of them, it's using this little
Okay.
device that you like lay on, and it's, like puts that curvature back in your neck. And I had mentioned that with my physical therapist before, and they said it was a good idea, but I wasn't doing it consistently. So I was just like, okay, I'm going to start
Okay.
trying this like every night, that, and then just a few very basic neck stretches, range of motion neck stretches, and it made like such a difference. So it was stuff that I was doing sporadically
Wow.
before that I started doing consistently now, which is making the difference. And that is like my
Mm,
whole life motto that
mm.
I realized lately. Like, if you can do things consistently, even if they're like this, then it's going to make a
Yep.
difference. So yeah.
Yeah. That's so real. In physical therapy, I'm learning that like you just do it consistently. When you break the consistency, it's like harder to get back on track, but also your body's like, "Oh, okay, like now we're just
Mm-hmm.
not as strong anymore because you decided that you didn't want to do this thing." But it's like, "Oh, like is this tiny little exercise or stretch really going to make a difference?" And
Yeah.
it literally does. So I think that's like a big surprise for us as people, especially as we're getting older. We talked about this in our in our aging episode, which y'all really liked. That was one of the highest views that we've gotten. So I'm glad that that really resonated with a lot of folks. But the idea of like, oh, it's just we have to do
Mm-hmm.
small things every day because we actually need to be
Mm-hmm.
caring for our body a lot, which makes sense if we think about, how much we're running around and we're working and we're in school and all of that. Our body actually
Mm-hmm.
goes through a lot. So that like quick, like 5-10 minutes of
Yeah.
stretching your neck actually is like instrumental. So rock
Thank
on,
you.
girl. I'm proud of you
Thank
for
you.
being consistent, and I'm proud of you for being like, hey, instead of just sticking with this neck pain, I'm actually gonna do something
Yeah,
about
yeah.
this.
It's amazing what, we learn to live with. And I'm like, why do I need to be living like this? Like, I can do something about this. So yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah. Oh, I
So,
love that.
I
Good job.
refused to be content with my neck pain. So we will talk about contentment, but that is
Great
something I was
segue.
not content with. And I had to do something about it. But
Yeah.
okay, let's talk about contentment. Rachel Ann, you wanted to talk about contentment.
Mm.
Tell me why, or tell us why. What is it about this topic, especially connected to the last few topics that we were discussing? Um, what made you excited to talk about this?
Yeah, so this is a topic that's come up in like multiple conversations in a short amount of time. And typically when something like that happens, then that means that like God wants me to really be paying attention to the topic, or it's something to be doing some research about. It's just something that it for some reason God wants me to be thinking about this. And so he's like, "Hey girl, like I'm sending you lots of
Mm-hmm.
messages. Are you going to get the picture?" So that's what it is with contentment. And so I was like, okay, Lord, like, what is it that you want me to be concentrating on contentment about? part of it is because my husband and I are in the process of moving. And so I think like doing an apartment search in New York City, it's like, wow, it can be hard to be content because there's
Yeah.
so many different options out there. And then I also think, on the other hand, just a lot of the things that are happening in the world, in the country, in our jobs, and in our lives, and in the relationships that we have, feeling content is actually just really difficult to do. And I was doing some research, and I think there's a lot of misunderstanding
Mm.
about what contentment means. I think there's some confusion with things like being,
Mm.
unambitious or complacency. And so I'm like, no, the Lord actually calls us to be content. That's a very specific thing. And it doesn't look like not having goals and dreams and all of that, but people confuse it for that, and it actually like allows us to put our trust in the Lord fully. And it's just something that, like, as from a psychological perspective and also as from a Christian perspective, um if we are content, how that shows up in our relationships and in how we feel about people and things and our activities. There's like a sense of security that we have when
Mm-hmm.
we are content, and who, as Christians, who we are content in the Lord, and how that really transforms things. So it was just like a big aha moment for me. I'm like, oh, this word contentment, it actually is a big deal. And there's a lot of misunderstanding about it, which is understandable. But it actually is really crucial to hold on to, as well as like the things of like caring and loving for yourself. That helps
Mm-hmm.
us to be content, right? Understanding how we can love ourselves. And when we do that well, the way we love our neighbors will
Right.
also be well. And so when we're from a place of contentment, how it there's so much fruit that comes
Yeah.
out of that, in the same way that loving yourself and caring for yourself and going against anti-aging societal pressure and all of that.
Anti-aging. Yeah. I feel that. Yeah. Yeah.
Anti-aging, yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, I think why is it so important? Because like being content means that you're satisfied with what you have, right? So it's a huge component of
Mm-hmm.
gratitude, or maybe a byproduct of gratitude, and not like wanting for
Mm-hmm.
anything else. And again, that doesn't mean I don't want
Yeah.
to improve, or I don't want to make my situation better or get better, but it means that even if things don't change, I am satisfied, with what I have. And really, if we talk from a
Mm-hmm.
Christian standpoint, like, yes, God calls us to be content because we're supposed to be thankful at all times for whatever He's given us or not given us, right? Like, because whatever He does for
Mm.
us is correct, is good, is what we need. So that contentment is being satisfied with whatever it is that I have, with whatever my situation is. So there's this idea, though, that like I can be content where I am, but still be working, Like, so say it's with my job,
Mm.
like I can be
Mm.
content with my position right now, and thankful for it and satisfied and not complaining about it all the time, but still working to get that promotion that I think is good for me, right? That I think suits my skills.
Yeah.
That I don't think that they cancel each other out, like you were saying. You can be
Yeah.
content, but still ambitious, right? Still working, still striving.
Yeah.
But it's that balance, as usual, of, hey, even if I don't get that, I'm okay where I'm at. This is where God wants me right now, and I'm okay
Mm.
with that. I'm satisfied. You know, I don't need more.
Yeah, yeah. And I think where the difficulty is we live in a world, maybe we've also come from like different contexts, whether like family or schooling or friendship circles. There's a lot of spaces where we have learned what's called like
Mm.
black and white thinking, or dichotomous thinking, rigidity. And it's this idea of it's either this or this. And a lot of things in life is gray area, is ambiguous. And I think this is one of those times where we kind of fall into that trap, right? It's either you are content or you have ambitions and goals. And this is a situation where
Mm-hmm.
it's right? So because you are content with where you are in your life right now, you are enjoying the gifts that the Lord has given you. That allows you the opportunity to have goals and to think about, hey, God, what is it that you want for my career life? What is it that you want for my friendships? What is it that you want for my romantic life, right? And to create goals with the Lord in moving forward in those different areas, right? But it's from a place of contentment. You don't do things in order to be content. You are content where you are, and that allows you to be able to do more things. And then when you do achieve that goal, you're
Yeah.
still content, right? You're still excited and proud of yourself. This accomplishment is a big deal, right? Let's not water that down, because that's not what we're saying. But the idea of I am content because my security is in the Lord, because I trust that He will provide for me. I trust that He will give me wisdom and discernment about how to move forward in difficult situations, right? So because of that, I don't have to be anxious. I don't have to strive in an unhealthy way. I don't have to do things to prove my worth
Mm-hmm.
or validity or value, because the Lord has already determined
Mm-hmm.
those things about me. And because of that contentment, I don't need to sign up for things that are outside of what God wants me to sign up for. I don't need to feel jealous. I don't need to fall for peer pressure, right? So that's what contentment says. It really is just you acknowledging what God is doing in your life and what He has done in your life, sitting in that, and then being in expectation that He will continue to do things in your life. And you're like, yo, I'm here for
Mm-hmm.
whatever you got for me, Lord.
Mm-hmm.
I'm
I
ready.
like it. So I see that really the two things that feed into our contentment is trust, right? Trust that He has the right plan for me and that He's doing what's best for me. And again, gratitude, acknowledging those things that I
Mm,
have in my life and being thankful for them, actively thankful for them, right? So there's something that I was
mm,
hearing about recently, which I think there's many barriers to contentment. One of them is clearly just society and
mm,
comparison culture and hustle culture and all that. But another one is this idea that, okay, let's use my relationship for example, because I always use my relationship as an example. But we've been together for a long time, right? We're about to celebrate, God willing, 18 years married, right? So we've been together a long time. So something like that, when you've had something for a long time, even if it's a great blessing, which it
mm,
is, He is the greatest blessing, it's so easy to habituate to that, right? Like it's been here for so long, I almost like
mm,
don't even notice it anymore, and I don't acknowledge how
mm.
wonderful it is, what a gift, it is that God has given me. So this idea of habituation, right? I think this is probably a psychology term, and it's definitely neuroscience based, that like things that are constantly there, you just like don't notice them as much, kind of like
Mm,
a smell, right? Like if you walk into a room that has
mhm,
a beautiful candle, right, immediately you'll smell it, but like after 5 minutes you're like, oh, what happened to that beautiful smell, because you get
mhm,
desensitized, your receptors or whatever. And it's the same idea with like these emotional phenomenon. So I'm thankful the first
mm,
year that I was married, but as time goes by, like we habituate to the things around us, to the good things around us. So I think to counter that is like a gratitude practice, is to pay attention, on a regular
yeah,
basis, a daily basis even, of what are the things that I'm thankful for, and that allows me to increase my contentment, right? Because if I don't do that, I like forget.
yeah,
I'm like, well, nothing particularly good happened today,
mm,
right? So I'm like, no, I'm not really thankful for anything. Are you kidding? Like, what about the thousands of blessings that have been, showered on me for many, many years? I just like sometimes get numb to them, like forget about them.
yeah. Yeah, we get used to it. There's an expression, it's much more eloquent than what I'm going to say, but it basically is that we get so used to God blessing us, that we don't even like notice or thank him when he
Mm-hmm.
blesses us with something else. And it really highlights that, one, we are people who adapt very quickly. We adapt to dysfunction. That's why we don't always make changes as quickly as we need to that are healthy for us. We adapt to situations that we're around and we're like, okay, we'll just make it work. I'm adaptable. And also, we're people who we just get used to the same thing over and over again, and we're like, cool. But I think contentment is an invitation to get outside of that, outside of like the normal routine and being a human doing. And it's an invitation to be a human being. And like, if we really sit there and do a gratitude practice, we will be so overwhelmed by the way that God shows up in our lives. Even on really, really difficult days, we usually are still able to find some things
Mm-hmm.
that we are grateful for. It doesn't downplay the difficulty of the hardships we're experiencing. Nope, that's not what I'm saying. What I am saying is that when we are reminded of like, actually, like there's a lot of things that I'm taking for granted right now, and I probably should not be taking those things for granted. This is a really, really big deal. But in a lot of our spaces, it's so normal, right? It's so normal to, be married when all of your friends are married. So you don't really see
Mm-hmm.
how it's so beautiful. Or it's so normal to be an entrepreneur when all of your friends are entrepreneur, and you don't really recognize how this is like a huge risk and it's kind of insane, right? And so we need reminders of those things, which makes sense because we're people and we are flawed. So we just need
Yeah.
reminders of that. And like doing that gratitude practice is that reminder. And that helps us to be like, oh, yes, like I can be so content and I still have goals and I still have things. I'm still expecting the Lord to move in my life in certain ways. And while he does that, or even if he never does that, I am still so grateful. And I do also want to preface by saying that having a contentment mindset is healthy. But if we're talking about like situations that are dysfunctional or unhealthy or potentially harmful,
Mm-hmm.
do not be
Mm-hmm.
content in those situations, right? So the Bible talks about setting our mind on the things above. And, the Lord will tell us and will be with us in how he wants us to move forward and align our steps. If we are in a situation that's unhealthy, God will probably do things to be like, hey, I'm trying to get your attention because I want you to be out of this situation. So contentment is something that is, we're talking about this in the sense of for aspects of your life where it is healthy, and we just need to be reminded of that and how that can really transform us. But for folks that are dealing with those really difficult situations, please
Yeah.
don't be content in things that God does not actually want you to be
Yeah.
content in. That's
Yeah,
not
that's
part of
interesting
God's
because I
plan.
was thinking the same thing earlier that I wanted to make sure to mention that like sometimes when there is something a job, a relationship, whatever that's just like not working out, it can make us think that like our whole life
Mm,
sucks. Like there's something bad and then there's just like everything's
mm,
horrible, my whole life is horrible, I hate everything. So in that case, we need to focus
mm,
a little bit and think about what is actually the source of my discontent, right? Like what is the source? So then hopefully you can
mm,
narrow it down to
mm-hmm.
maybe it's my job, maybe it's this toxic relationship, and then make an action plan, right? And focus on, okay, Lord, I'm
Yeah,
grateful for the rest of this stuff because it's not my whole life that's horrible. There's all these
yeah,
other blessings, right? But if it's this relationship and I need to get out of it, and then you make an action plan. You pray for guidance with that, or if it's the job or whatever it is. So yeah, like there might be a source
yeah,
of genuine discontent and we can deal with that, but that shouldn't make us
mm-hmm.
like unhappy with our whole life, but do you see what I mean? Like that sometimes we could
Mm-hmm.
just amalgamate everything together and this is bad, so everything's bad. you know um there are certain days during the month,
Yeah,
I'll say,
yeah,
that, I end up feeling like that. It happens to all of us, but, if it becomes like a long term
yeah,
thing, well, if there's something that needs to change, by all means, like let's change it. Yeah. But I also wanted to focus on, so we are talking about gratitude. There's something I think kind of similar to it is like focusing on the things, even small things. This goes back to my wellness win. Sometimes it's just small things that bring us
mm,
joy, right? Like we can make our life a magical
Mm.
experience, really. Like even the everyday mundane can become magical if you're focusing on
Yeah.
these little beautiful things throughout the day, if you're looking for them, right? And appreciating them. Like the other day it was a hummingbird on the hummingbird feeder. For me, like
Mm.
honestly, that brought me so much joy, being able
Oh,
to watch this beautiful little hummingbird
yeah.
eating out of the feeder. And like I could have just been like, oh, that's cool, and like walked away. But by focusing on it and being
Yeah.
like, this is so amazing, like this is actually
Yeah.
truly amazing, and I'm so thankful that I was
Yeah.
able to witness that, like doing that multiple times, like that
Yeah.
super increases your joy, which increases your gratitude, which increases your sense of contentment of like, hey, my life is actually good, you know?
Yeah.
I doesn't need me to take
Yeah.
this amazing trip, overseas to be like life is good. Like no, you can just like imagine or appreciate the little beautiful things that there are throughout the whole day. Have you heard of the term
Yeah.
glimmers? I like as like
Yes, I've heard of
a
that. Yeah.
counter to triggers, right? So there are things that are triggering, but then there are these like beautiful glimmers that if we like hold on to these moments throughout the day, throughout the week, can really improve our outlook, I think. And it's a small practice, just like the gratitude
Yeah.
practice, that I think makes a difference.
I love that. What's so beautiful about that hummingbird example is it's such a simple reminder of like how good and creative and powerful and loving and awesome God is. Like he created a hummingbird. Like if you, so you were able to look at that hummingbird for a while. You observed the way that it was moving its wings and the fact that it could be humming along and it's like, hey, I'm going to have like a delicious treat right now and this is how my feathers look. Like God
Mm-hmm.
created that. You know what I mean? Like every single feather has a purpose, has a certain pigmentation to it. And God was like, yes, this is how it's going to come together. And you're going to be really pretty and make people smile and be really happy when you're just
Mm-hmm.
like doing your thing. Nature is I'm such a highly sensitive person. Us HSPs, we love nature so much. It can drastically change our moods. It calms our nervous system. And then as a Christian, it is one of the most
Mm-hmm.
beautiful reminders of how good and powerful and awesome God is. Because he determines when
Mm-hmm.
the waves come in and out. I don't understand that. I don't understand that, but he determines that. And just the way that trees know how to grow and and flowers, they just know to grow
Mm-hmm.
towards the sun. They just know to do that and to face the sun. Like how beautiful. And then in nature, animals, they just know to either get along or to not get along. They just like know that. They're not talking to each other, right? They're going off of vibes, as like this young generation says. And those vibes are created by God. Like they just know. Like it I just like that is so wowy to me. And I don't know. As long as we
Mm-hmm.
never lose awe of what God is doing in our lives or the awe of the gifts that he has given us or the awe of whatever it is in relation to the Lord, that helps us to stay content because you just really
Yeah.
sit there and think about it. And I'm like,
Yeah.
yo, this is so wild. I could talk about this forever and I'm not going to because I'm just going to repeat
Well, I'm
myself,
going to
but
have
it's
to add
wild,
to this.
you
I don't
know?
know if it's really off topic or not, but you made me think of two things. So, a really awesome thing and kind of a gross thing,
Mm.
but they're both awesome. Okay. So, those of you that remember my spider incident from last time might laugh at this one. So, I just heard that ants, okay, ants, these little teeny tiny things that we imagine can't possibly have any sort of brain whatsoever. Did you know that they perform surgery on each other?
Yeah.
If an ant hurts its leg, it'll go to one of its friends and it will amputate it for it. And like part of like the secretions will like help
Oh
with
my gosh.
antibacterial. And the ants that don't have friends to help them will die. But the ants that get hurt and have friends around will live because they help them, which is just unbelievable. That they said that ants have been doing amputations longer than humans, right? Is what this article said.
Oh
But
my
so that's
gosh.
unbelievable, unbelievable. Number one. Number two, every single time I see orchid flowers, and there's the beautiful
Mm.
botanical garden here has an amazing orchid room. Every single time, I'm blown away, and I'm like,
Oh
how can we
yeah.
not believe that God is the creator, right? Like when there are these
Mm,
countless different unbelievable varieties and colors and shapes, each one completely unique. How is that not
mm.
indication of a creative designer, artist, right? Like God is the most amazing artist, like every single time. So the gorgeous
Yeah.
orchids and the variety and just the color, I mean,
Mm,
unbelievable. Like I anyone wants to come with me
mm.
to the botanical garden and ooh and ah at the orchids, I'm down to go because every time. But then there's that, and then there's the ants, and like you said, how do the animals know what to do? I mean, it's just like, yeah, talk about awe.
I cannot. That is,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, ants. And how insignificant do we think ants are as humans? Like no offense to ants, right? But like, let's like be real. So, and the fact that they are able to do that, and then if they
Yeah,
don't have
they
friends to
die.
do it, they die. So, like, they
Hmm.
even need community. Ants need
I'm pretty
community.
sure
That's
there's
a whole
a
other
verse
episode. That
in
is a
Proverbs
whole
about
other
ants.
episode.
So we think they're insignificant, but God does not. Yeah, I'm pretty sure there's something about like
Huh.
being diligent like an
Oh my
ant
god.
or
Yes.
something. Um well, we can look it up
Huh.
and
I
share it,
believe
but
it. That's
yeah.
incredible.
So that I know a
Mm.
super like random tangent, but it was my fault because I mentioned the
I love that.
hummingbird.
That was
Yeah.
so great.
But I guess back to bring it back
Thank you
is
for
if we
that.
pay attention to these little things, right? Like just go outside and think for a moment about the tree in front of you or the cloud or the sun or whatever, that can
Mm,
improve our outlook, and make us thankful for the world that we live in, despite the chaos and the craziness that unfortunately we're surrounded by. There's still so much to be thankful for, and,
mm,
and that I really think is
mm-hmm,
a root of our contentment.
mm-hmm. Oh, that is so beautiful. And I think when we are content, the way that we are able to show up and do things is just different, right? So because we are content, because we trust the Lord, because we are reminded of his goodness in our relationships in nature and in so many things, that empowers us to make changes in our lives when we need to, or advocate, or sign petitions, or like be a part of organizations that are doing really great work. Because we are content, we are able to do good in the world. It kind of like fuels us to be able to continue to do really great things. And so I think it's a beautiful, I don't know, it's just like a beautiful connection where when we really grasp
Mm-hmm.
God and his security and his love for us and his identity that he has given us, how it just transforms us and it transforms
Mm-hmm.
the lives around us. And when we lose that, how that makes it difficult to contribute to the world and contribute to the lives of the people around us. So I feel like I'm not trying to sound pressure inducing, but I'm just trying to highlight, like, yo, when we really grasp onto those things, it
Mm-hmm.
is a true
Yeah.
game changer. It is a true game changer. And I just wonder what the world would look like if more people were tapping into that, if more people were grasping those things about God, and how that could really transform them and their neighborhoods
Yeah.
in our world.
Yeah, you're making me think too that when we operate from a place of dissatisfaction, if I'm not okay with the way things are and I
Mm,
always want things to be better, we tend to jump from thing to thing to thing because we're always looking for something that's going to satisfy
mm,
us. And we know as Christians that nothing really in this world will satisfy us truly. It's Jesus that is our ultimate satisfaction.
mm,
But when I operate from this place of, again, dissatisfaction and discontentment, I'm constantly jumping from thing to thing without really thinking about it, and nothing is going to work. Versus if I am
mm,
already content in who I am and who God is and my place in this world, then I only do things that will truly make it better, right? Like, so imagine someone who's single.
mm,
Okay. If they're single and they're discontent, they get into every relationship because they're just constantly looking for something that's going to fill them, right? And we all know someone like that
mm,
or people like that. And are they happy? Is it healthy? Is it good for them? No. But if you have someone who's single but
mm,
content, then they are very like picky about only pursuing the relationship that they know is good for them, is edifying for them, right? Do you know what I mean? So
Mm.
it makes us do things that are
Mm.
truly good for us as opposed to things that are just trying to fill this void that we have because we're not content. In the only thing that really
Mm-hmm.
brings us true contentment, which is our relationship with God. So I hope that made sense. It made sense in my head, but
Yeah.
yeah.
That from what I'm hearing, that makes a lot of sense. What I'm hearing is that when you are content, like in this example of being single, when you are content in your life, then you are able to make informed decisions in your dating life so that you actually will be with somebody because you care about them and you love them and you feel like God is saying, yes, move forward with this person. Versus if you're not content, then you search for contentment outside of you and you are
Mm-hmm.
desperate for it. Right. And so you are potentially going to make not wise decisions because you really like there's
Mm-hmm.
so much angst behind it where you're like, well, the standard of it can be low because I
Right.
just need some type of fulfillment in this area. And I think that's real. I think that's definitely the case a lot for our romantic lives, for our friendships, and I think
Yeah.
also for our work lives as well, like how we go about finding jobs and what's a good fit for us. Something So something that I talk a lot about in coaching, for my clients who are single, they're like, "Yo, Rachel, like, how do I date and not lose my mind?" And I'm like, "Girl, it's hard." And I say I feel you as much as somebody who has been married for 2.5 years could feel you. So let me
Yeah.
like own my hat in that. What I will say is I don't have like an equation of like how to go about your dating life and all of that. If I were to say something though, what I have found, and this was the truth in my life and in the life of people that I know, is that when there is a deep fulfillment and satisfaction and contentment in the Lord, when that is so high and there's such like a thriving relationship with the Lord and walking with the Lord and just seeing how he's working in your life and how that is so fulfilling, typically God brings the person you're going to marry a month or two later after that. That is what I have found to be the case. Now, I'm not saying go be content in the Lord so you can get a man. That is not at all what I'm saying, right? The
Yeah.
intention needs to be different. But what I think that highlights is when we have that type of closeness with God, how that enables and it kind of unlocks different aspects of our lives to really come to fruition in a way that it is beautiful, and then we're able to enjoy those things from a
Yeah.
place of being content versus enjoying those things from a place of needing
Yeah.
validation or security from something outside of us. So that's my 5 seconds of dating
Yeah.
advice from
I
a
mean, it
married
hasn't
woman.
been that long, Rachel. You know what it was like. Yeah.
That's
I mean,
true.
I think unfortunately the dating environment gets worse every year, but you've been there, yeah, not too long ago. So I think you can still relate. Yeah.
Yeah. I still have hope though. Maybe we'll do an episode on it. I think there's a lot of pee in the dating pool. I feel you. I have seen my friends send me screenshots of
Oh
what
yeah.
they experience, and I pray. There's a lot of
Yeah.
reasons why we need to pray, y'all, and dating is one of them. But I still have hope for some
I know,
reason.
I
So
agree. We should
that
always have
that
hope.
that
It's
could be
just
a whole episode.
perhaps I don't know, it's the apps. The apps is what drains everyone I know that's dating from hope. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. When I think we never really learned how to date. One, as like a child of immigrants, I love you, mom and dad. Y'all did not teach me how to
No,
date at
dating
all.
was
That
not
is something that
allowed.
I just had
Yeah,
to
so
kind of
there's
learn
how
and
could
figure
we
out.
be taught something that's
It
not
was
allowed?
also
Yeah,
true.
yeah.
True. So praise the Lord for my friends for being like, "Hi, Rachel. This is why we do it. This is how we do it." And praise the Lord for my therapist for being like, "Hi, let's be like psychologically sound with this." So I think
Yeah.
that's the thing. We don't really know how to date, and so we're just sending a bunch of people out there to date, and it. I'm not see now. I'm getting on a rant, girl. Let me just sip my matcha and talk about contentment because you're about to have me be some
We'll
dating
put it on
guru
the
out
list
here.
for an upcoming episode. Yeah, yeah. We've always needed a part two.
We
Yeah,
will.
we've
Let
always
us know
needed
if
a
you want
part
us
two
to
of
talk.
the
Yeah,
day. I mean,
that's
2 and
true.
3 and 4 and 5. I'm sure
Yeah.
of that dating episode. That was
Yeah.
our all time highest
Lots of
viewed
parts.
episode for sure. Yeah, all time. So
Mm,
yeah, that
mm-hmm.
people clearly be
Mm-hmm.
wanting that content. Yeah. Okay. So we are running out of time. So it would be very
My
inappropriate
bad.
if we did not mention probably the most important Bible verse about contentment. So let me read. I love that we're just
Mm,
going from ants to dating to the Bible, but it is what it is. Okay. So you probably everyone's going to know what this is, but I love that we always know part of this verse and we don't always know the context, so this is super important. So this comes from Philippians.
mm,
St. Paul
mm,
says, I have learned in whatever state I am to be content. I know how to be abased and I know how to abound. Everywhere and in all things I have learned both to be full and to be hungry, both to abound and to suffer need. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. So that I can do all
mm,
things, I don't know if we've mentioned this before. That's always like twisted into, you know, literally I can do it. No, I can't literally do anything just because I have Jesus. I can do all things. In this case, is I can be content in any situation, right? Because I have Christ, I don't need anything
mm,
else, right? I have all I need because I have Christ, no
mm.
matter what my circumstances are, whether I have a lot, whether I'm in need, right, is what he's saying. I am content and I can do that through Christ who strengthens me. So we've mentioned this many times in this conversation, but I think what that tells us is that again, the source of our contentment is Jesus, right? And that kind of carries over into the rest of my life. And does that mean I should never want a good job or a relationship or to improve my health or my appearance or my situation? Not at all. It just means that I need to have that foundation
Mm,
of this is what actually I need, right? And I have Jesus, and everything else is kind of like bonus, right? Everything else that's good in my life, and there
mm,
are tons
mm,
of it, tons of blessings, right? Is bonus, and I can definitely work to have a better job, have a better relationship, whatever it is. But as long as I have Christ, technically I'm good. I'm content. I don't need anything else, you know?
yeah. I love that. That is such a beautiful reminder. And I think hearing about it from somebody like Paul, who has he's been through it, y'all. So if Paul is like, "Hi, I'm telling you that like this is what contentment looks like for me," that lets me know that contentment is possible. Yes, it's still hard. We have to actively work towards it, which is it seems silly. We have to work towards contentment, but because we are humans
Mm-hmm.
and because of the world that we live in, it is not something that is natural for us. And we don't get many reminders to do things that are healthy, such as like having contentment in that. So having that come from Paul and having him say that like, hey, this is like what it looks like, and saying that how being content connects to the Lord strengthening me to do the things
Mm-hmm.
that he is calling me to do. That's really beautiful because we need strength to do the things that God wants us
Right.
to do. We can't do it on our own. We can't do
Right.
it on our own
Written
strength.
from jail. Just let me throw that in there. Yeah, written from jail. So
Yeah.
yeah, he certainly knew about less than desirable circumstances, but the ability to be content no matter what. Because what do we really truly need is Jesus. Everything else we want, and that's fine, and that's totally fine. And He wants good things for
Mm,
us too,
mm-hmm,
right? But that doesn't mean I can't be happy,
mm-hmm.
content, satisfied without those extra things, right? So
Yeah.
I say,
Yeah.
just a little takeaway gratitude practice. I feel like it's a huge one for this.
Mm,
Focus on those small little things that bring you joy and make the life that you have right now special, right? Like, sorry, I know I said we're running out of time, but you do
mm.
this, Rachel, like when you take those self dates,
I do.
you know, that's like, I think that's a great example. Like, this is the
Oh
life that I have, but I'm going to do something a little special and take
yeah.
myself on a date and get a nice meal, have a nice environment.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's an example. I think of ways that whatever situation we're in, we can,
Mm,
realize, hey, this is not a bad life and be thankful and content. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, yeah. And it encourages me to like enjoy spending time with myself and to like enjoy my own company, which for a lot of people who are married, we can like lose our
Yeah.
identities in our spouses. And I'm like, well, my husband and I, we have date night once a week. Why don't I have a self date once a week too? And just continue to enjoy that time. So
Yeah.
I love
Yeah.
that. Good job, Rachel, and her self
Yeah.
dates. Um, I'm happy to hear that was helpful. But we would love to hear from you about what contentment means to you. What's the dating pool like? How do you feel about ants? Tell us all of the things about this roller coaster ride of an episode that we have taken you on. So thank you so much for coming alongside us in this journey. We called it a
Yes.
journey for a reason, y'all, and this is why. If you want to connect with us, you can find us on Instagram at Connected Wellness Podcast. You can also find us on Facebook at Connected Wellness Podcast. We would love to hear your thoughts, topic ideas, things that you want to hear more from us. So you can email us at connectedwellnesspodcast@gmail.com. You can reach out to Marianne specifically on Instagram at Wabasaba, or me on Instagram at Real with Rachel Ann. All of that will be down below, so you can know how to reach out to us. And we are excited. We're always excited to hear from y'all and what you have to say and what's going on in your world. So, without further ado, I will hand it over to
Thank you so much
Marianne.
for tuning in and sticking with us on this, ride of many tangents. And until next time, be well. Thanks.
Yes, be well, everybody.